Hello, everybody. This is Kim and Candy with Serendipity 85 podcast. How's everyone doing tonight? Candy, how are you doing?
Doing good. I might as well be live on location, but I'm doing.
Um, just talk into your speaker or your mic so I can make sure that you're being heard.
I might as well be on location, but I believe I'm doing okay.
Okay. So um, let's take a minute. Just hold on. This is testing, internal speakers. All right. We're going to go with this, and hopefully our earlier test is still good. Tonight, we were talking about the crisis in Kabul, part two. Last time we were together, we talked about the different mental health issues that might be coming about because of the veterans who served in Afghanistan, wondering, hey, what's going on? And having concern for the people that they're leaving behind. And so it seems to have heated up this week. And we're going to go over that right now. This morning, I watched a broadcast of the Kevin McCarthy, the GOP minority leader. He got up with some of the other top veterans, and they have some major concerns. Of course, I'm sure you know. And they had said that they're not so sure about what Biden and his cabinet or whatever are doing. So they're going to push Congress to take care of this. They're going to push for Congress to come up with something by next week. And so do you have anything to say about that really quick, what you know or what's been updated to you?
Well, I can't speak to what you were just referring to because I didn't see it. I've not seen anything other than a real quick excerpt today on the news when I happened to be in the break room at work. And the last bit of statistics that I saw was basically referring to, and again, I'm just kind of recapping really quick what I just briefly heard over like a 45 second period, is that there was a suicide bombing outside the Kabul airport. And the last count, as I had just gotten off work again, I didn't have an opportunity to really sit and look at some statistics, but from what was put out there in the information that I had pulled up off the Washington Post, I do believe it was, and really quickly a snippet from the TV, the news, after I toned out Jen Patsky because I can't stand listening to her talk. But anyway, it's my understanding that we have lost 13 U.S. Marine Corps and one Navy medical med tech. I'm not specifically sure what their actual MOS titleage is. But nonetheless, that's still 13 lives too much that we've lost. So, yeah, there has been a significant increase just within the veteran community itself over, the events going on in Afghanistan. One of the things that I really want to touch base on, because I think if I get it off my chest, it's going to help give me a little bit of my own relief, is the fact that I keep hearing this Jen Paskey, even if I'm pronouncing her name right, I don't really care at this particular point in time, how they're doing. And again, they could be doing everything. I'm not on the front line, so I can only speak to what I hear and briefly see and only believe half of what they say, if even that much. That, they're doing everything they can to get both, Americans as well as Afghanis and our allies and everything out if the Americans choose to leave. And that's probably what I have the biggest heartburn with. What do you mean if the Americans choose to leave? So, I mean, I could understand, maybe a little bit about what she's talking about. They could be choosing to want to stay behind because maybe they all wouldn't be able to get out. Maybe they would have to leave family members behind. Again, I don't know 100% the exact issues. I can't speak to it. I'm not there. I'm not a journalist. I'm not reporting on it. But those are just a couple of things that I have severe heartburn with. And granted, even though I've been out of the military for a number of years, um, every time something goes on and I hear the senseless loss of life, and I understand, having been in the military, that when we sign that dotted line, we know that we may pay, unfortunately, with our life on any mission, that we're deployed off to. And I get that, but nonetheless, there's a difference between that and senseless deaths, in my personal opinion. And I think this administration is just absolutely disgusting.
Agreed. I totally agree. I think a lot more people are going to be agreeing.
That's my politically correct statement. Obviously, I have a lot more harsher words than that, but I'll just leave it at that as my politically correct statement for this administration.
This administration seems to think that they can get everyone out by the end of the month. Unfortunately, like I said, Kevin McCarthy and the interview that I watched, there's no way that they can get everybody out. So like I said, they're going to force Congress to do something next week.
Well, let me just capture really quick on that too. Number one, since when does one of the most powerful nations in the world go along a timeline with a terrorist group? When do we bow and cower down to a terrorist group? We shouldn't ever. We should be stepping in and taking the bull by the horn. Again, it's been a number of years since I've been out. Obviously, like I said, I'm not a journalist. I'm not there. I'm not reporting firsthand and seeing things with my eyes and, on the ground, pushing boots and talking to people. But this, again, I'm just getting to the point where I literally have no words, because we've got serious blood on the president's hands, and that's just absolutely ludicrous.
Yep. Okay, so I'm getting some text right now. I just want to make sure everybody's hearing us. This is the first time that we are doing double here at my studio, and we had some little issues. But if people can't hear us, please put some comments in the to the live stream comment area. So what I wanted to talk about next is that they gave some statistics, okay? They said that more than 2,000 American heroes have given their lives in Afghanistan since 2001. And so 2,000, how many are going to be lost here in the next, couple of weeks? It's alarming. And so here are some of the topics that they brought up. They said they wanted the veterans to know how important it is not to forget what they did over there and their service that they gave. One of the things that I wanted to talk to you about, Candi, since you are in the mental health field and you do work with veterans, okay? I do know that sometimes they come back from over there and they don't want to think about it anymore. And even though we know, we talked about on the last show, it's important to remember to talk about it. That helps to cope with it when you can, share those things. But a lot of people don't want to. They don't want to talk about it. But now these generals and things, they're saying it's important for you veterans to not forget about your service over there. What do you agree? What's going on right now? They also said that there's an alarming uptick in the concern regarding the veterans' calls to hotlines right now. Mm-hmm. The veterans are calling the hotlines. What is going on? Can you update us with that?
I don't specifically work directly with, the hotlines. So again, I can't speak to that. I can tell you just, again, being a veteran and working, not working, but, being still in that world and in that culture and having many, friends and many contacts that are veterans, I can tell you, just amongst, talking to ourselves. And again, as a veteran, anytime there's a new program rolled out or there's new resources or services as a veteran enrolled in the, the VA system, I get an email into my personal email advising me of those new systems. And I briefly touched base on some of those resources that have been updated in the last, week or so, when we talked last week about and again, I don't have the information right in front of me, but there's different hotlines. We always have the Veterans Crisis Line. So if they're feeling like they're in crisis, please reach out. Don't suffer in silence. Reach out to somebody. Reach out to the crisis line. Reach out to anybody. Just reach out. That's the most important thing. Don't suffer in silence. And they are starting to put together some different resources in regards to, the Afghanistan veterans. I very briefly, and again, this last week has just been so crazy with a lot of things that I've got going on, and a lot of, embers in the fire, trying to get things moving forward, with different business and so on and so forth. I saw this, and I can't even think off the top of my head where I saw this absolutely wonderful thing, but I briefly touched on an article that showed a very moving photo of a Vietnam veteran that, again, I don't know the setting, but a lot of the Vietnam veterans, because they know, it's like I mentioned in our our last meeting last week, we cannot ever have another Vietnam. And I think one of the things that is starting to become very evident is that as a nation, we learned how shameful the Vietnam veterans were treated, and we are committed to not ever letting that happen again. And that's a wonderful thing. And the article that I briefly touched on, like I mentioned, it was a Vietnam veteran reaching out to an Afghanistan veteran. And I don't know the circumstances. I don't know if they were, at a veteran of a VFW and talking. Again, I don't know the situation, but I can't help but want to highlight that, for any veteran, it doesn't matter, your service era. A veteran is a veteran, and we are all brothers, we're all sisters, we're all comrade in arms. And even if it's just, if a local business that's owned by a veteran, I guarantee you that business is patroned by other veterans. So even if you just know of a business and you don't know where to go, you don't know where to start, you just don't know, go to that business and reach out, because I guarantee you at some point in time or in some form of fashion, they're going to have either a phone number or a website or some of the information. And again, I had some stuff that I wanted to post up here tonight, but unfortunately work schedules just didn't agree with us in our podcast tonight. So we'll have to get that stuff posted at another time. But yeah, it's heating up, and there's definitely the I can't even begin to think of the word right now off the top of my head, but there is no doubt going to be an increase in anxiety, depression, maybe some PTSD, some people even who are on medications who haven't had or don't feel that they've had, any type of flashbacks or nightmares or anything like that. This whole thing, and granted, it's not going to happen to everybody, but this is going to touch a big part of the veteran population. And we're going to definitely see some increased mental health issues as far as people reaching out to the hotline, people becoming suicidal, people becoming distraught because they are going to have the thought processes and the feelings of, hey, I served over in Afghanistan. I was there for 14 years, or, I was in for 14 years and I did multiple tours over there. Whatever the situation may be, there is going to be a large amount of the population that is affected by this, and everybody's going to be affected differently. So again, I know we always try to come up with, the one particular saying, and it may sound cliche, but again, don't suffer in silence. Reach out, and it doesn't matter who or what you reach out to. Just reach out to somebody. Even though we do have, a little bit of a, if you want to call it a little bit or a lot, whatever, upswing, in, COVID cases going on in a lot of the facilities in the community, their resources are strapped. I'm sure the VA hospital resources are strapped as well. I don't know firsthand, but I would imagine that they are. Everybody's feeling, the increases of the COVID thing seems to be continuing with the stuff that they've got going on. So facility, hospital, and community resources are definitely tapped out. But just because they're tapped out doesn't mean that you should ever let that be a deterrent from you reaching out. Again, reach out to a business, reach out to a friend, especially, for those of you that are in that technology age, get on your phone, start Googling. Siri doesn't always give me the answer that I want, but more times than not, when I use Siri and I ask her to look something up, she at least points me, or he, I should say, at least points me in the right direction, and I can pretty much try and figure it out from there. But again, and I can't say it enough, and I won't ever stop saying it. Don't suffer in silence and reach out, because that's the only way that we're going to combat this, and that's the only way that we're going to help this population get through it and get through it effectively, because we all need to come together. It takes a village to raise a child. It takes a village to continue to support people who, again, have signed the dotted line and, knowingly may give their life on any of their missions, and for friends and family and loved ones and people just out in the community, there's a responsibility on us as well. And you need to step up to the plate, and you need to rise to the challenge, and you need to be there for these veterans as well. Again, we can't let another Vietnam ever happen, and it's going to take an entire community. It's going to take an entire nation to support and make sure that these things hopefully come out with a far better ending than what we're seeing right now. And literally, again, a lot of people are, they could say that, my statements may sound cliche, but again, unless you've walked in my shoes or you've walked in other veterans' shoes, you truly don't know the story. You don't know what it's like. You don't know the culture unless you've been embroiled in it, either married into it or involved in it, raised in it, whatever you want to call it. But it's going to take a nation, and none of us should be turning our backs on any of them.
Exactly, Candi. Exactly. So I just wanted to go over some more of the points that I got from the broadcast of the General McCarthy that I was saying. They know that the veterans are on alarm right now. They're feeling alerted. They want you to know, veterans, that you didn't fight in vain. You did a great service for this nation, and we know you continue to serve in your communities, and that's what you had said. There are a lot of veterans that come back, and they do community things. They get food together and supplies, and they send them to some of the people that are still there, or to some of the bases, or to some of the people in need, and that's really important. I want to acknowledge those people that are doing that. And I think that's a wonderful thing. Also, what my main concern right now is that what is so painful right now to the military is that the Taliban has now over $85 billion worth of our military equipment. Okay, so now you and me both know what a threat that now poses. Mm-hmm. We also now know that some of those refugees that are coming over, and mind you, some of them may not like the Americans. They're flooding in. The gates are open. We're having so many refugees coming in. So, as a concerned citizen, if we do send over mass amount of troops, because they said if one American is hurt, they're going to rain terror. Now, what if we have to send over some troops? And that's going to leave our homeland vulnerable. What do you say about that?
In that, I mean, it's very, very true. And let's go ahead and point out, and if my numbers are right, and again, don't quote me, but if my numbers are right, I believe we had one known death in the last week, and then you can add another 13 to that. So I mean, I don't know if my numbers are exactly on point, but that's 14 lives lost. What about the lives maybe that might be lost that we don't know about? What about all of those that are still in harm's way? Yeah, what do I have to say about that? Again, I'll go back to my I'm utterly disgusted. And I'll leave it at that. It poses a huge threat. Um, and I know for a fact that, it's not just our veterans that are on alarm right now. Look at all the troops that are now having to be deployed over there. So, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not always in 100% into the current events because of, life and other things that go on. But correct me if I'm wrong. Weren't we withdrawing troops and now we've got more troops there than we had because we were withdrawing? So, there's a lot of flim flam, in my personal opinion. Again, I don't claim to be an expert on it. However, I think my experiences and my gut knows enough to know when we're being shoveled a big pile of something that they're expecting us to believe. But yeah, that's a big threat. But you also, you have to remember, a lot of our focus is on the veterans, but we also need to do everything we can to take care of our active duty military, who are going to be the ones that get called to the challenge and rise up to the challenge and are serving in that challenge. And we have to support them in any way possible that we can. We have to support their families. We have to support their loved ones. That includes husbands, wives, children's, mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters. The military in general, whether you're active duty or whether you're a veteran of the services, everybody needs to be supported. And I mean, people could be feeling like in a way we're headed right back to an Afghanistan thing again, which it's going to be very, very interesting to see how this thing continues to unfold over the next couple of weeks. But more importantly is, I urge everybody, again, the community, friends, family, loved ones, mom, dad, husband, wife, brother, sisters, you need to be very vigilant in regards to your loved one, whether they're active duty, because you got to remember, even your active duty personnel, they're going to be worried about what's potentially going on at home. Because I mean, come on, I'm not going to be saying anything that hasn't been said over, the last 6 months. Look we have a border crisis going on, and who knows exactly what's going in the border. I mean, there's a big potential out there that states are getting all of these, immigrants, transferred around the entire nation. And how do we know? Again, I'm not working the front lines. I don't work with border. I don't work with border patrol and stuff like that. So I can't speak 100% to everything. But the reality is what exactly do we know? Who do we know is actually coming across those borders? I mean, take a look at all of the MS-13 and other gangs and other gang members and stuff like that. Just over the last couple of months, that they have caught and detained, coming over the borders, because our borders are open. And so, I mean, again, this whole thing could really, really turn political, and I don't think the community really wants to hear my political take on it, because unfortunately, a lot of people don't buy into my political take on it, and that's fine. Everybody's beliefs and and everything is different. That doesn't mean that we can't all get along and come together and pull together for what's right for the nation and the community. Both our active duty military and our veterans, but this entire nation, if not the entire world, honestly, we're in crisis, and we need to recognize that, and we need to come together, because this is not going to just affect the military. This is going to affect people out in the community. It's going to affect people like you that work in the community. It's going to affect people like me that work in the community, live in the community. It can affect our children. It can affect, teachers. It can affect people in the medical field. I mean, everybody is going to be affected by this, because our nation, our world, a good portion of it, we're in turmoil right now. And that's going to cause mental health issues all across the board, even for young children. Let's take a look at the stark reality of those that are serving active duty, and they have children that are in school, and, they hear the news, they hear talk, maybe they watch the events, they listen to other, school mates talk, and so on and so forth. So they're not oblivious. So imagine, and again, growing up in the military, that's one of the unfortunates, is that your loved one, mom, dad, brother, sister, whoever, gets deployed, but there's always that underlying, will they come home safe, whether they verbalize it or not. So this is not just going to single out the active duty service members. It's not going to single out just the veterans. This is going to affect every single community, every single block in every single state across this entire nation, and in many parts of the world. Think about what our allies are going through. Think about what those Afghanis now are going to be going through as well. Think about those of them that are potentially at risk of being, held captive, so to speak, by the Taliban, because if the Taliban doesn't know how to work all of that wonderful technology, military equipment that they just supposedly inherited, imagine that. Again, I won't go off onto my beliefs in that tangent, but they're going to need people who know how to operate those things. And we all know the ISIS, Taliban, whatever we call them, and whatever they're being referred to as these days. We know that they are not above taking a person's life. So darn well they're not it would be completely comprehensible that they would hold these people, blackmail these people. If you don't do this and you don't do that, you don't train us, and we're going to kill your entire family. We know that will happen. So there's probably really wonderful people out there that have been our allies and done everything they can to help us, but unfortunately they're going to be put in a position to either have to do what they have to do to save their own skin or save their family, bottom line. Mm-hmm. So think about that type of crisis. Think about the mental health that they have to go through. I can't say that I would do anything different. I've not been in those shoes, but, I think if somebody's holding a gun to my head, or somebody's got, my entire family lined up in front of me and telling me, either you do or, boom, all 12 of these people just go away in a blink, I'm going to do everything I can probably to save my family.
Absolutely.
So, absolutely. I mean, think about the mental health that they're going through. Think about the mental health of the family members that have lost family members from the Afghanistani people that tried to get out on the airplane. And, unfortunately, I mean, the news showed it. We had bodies falling from the airplane in flight, just like we had bodies jumping out of the towers when the towers, were hit 20 years ago, coming up on September 11th. So, and that's another thing. You got to throw that in there too, because this is
we're coming up on the 20th anniversary of 9/11.
Yeah, I mean, just in a couple of weeks. So you've got that in the back of people's minds and stuff as well.
What happened? Did you drop something?
Yeah, hold on just one second.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry about that. So that's another thing that's just going to add to people's mental health issues. So I mean, you take a look at this from all different aspects, and not one person is affected, the same way another person is. For some people, it's the 9/11 thing. For others, it's what's going on in Afghanistan and what's going on, again, because, we do have, this pandemic that we're dealing with, so anything and everything you do, there's an underlying mental health component that can either that can break or can be, worn extremely thin. So none of us are immune to it. People may think they are.
Yeah, we all have our breaking points.
None of us are immune to it. Some of them are going to be obviously more high risk, as far as potential risk for suicide, so on and so forth. But, and again, unfortunately, when you live in very stressful times, I mean, take a look at the violence. Just take a look at the general violence, people robbing, people who've been out of work, people who were told, 2 weeks, slow the spread, back to work. And some people, here we are, what is it, 18, 19 months? I've lost count, 18 or 19 months later, and, they're still not back to work. People are looking at losing their homes, some people are losing families, et cetera, et cetera. So this is just a domino effect. Yeah. And this is just one more domino in the long string of dominoes that is really going to affect people across the continuum. And it is just going to be hard for a lot of people in many, many different ways.
Yeah. I wanted to get into that. I wanted to make a few more notes about what Kevin McCarthy and some of the top veterans were saying, that this is a disaster of epic proportions. And then they said Biden will be left with the blood on his hands.
He's already got it on his hands.
The blood is on. The motto is for the military: no one gets left behind.
Yeah, and he's all too quick to try and leave people behind. That includes allies, and that includes Americans.
He said that we violated the trust of the Afghanis morally, and our moral obligation, that when they agreed to help us, they trusted us.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so that's why these top military and top veterans, they're taking it so personal, because of how Biden just shot all the trust to hell.
Mm-hmm.
He's also said that the other countries have people in there as well. This is a worldwide disaster.
Absolutely.
How are the other people going to get their people out on time? If Biden does this, or makes it, I don't know what's going on with this end of the month thing. And then they also said that Biden is begging to negotiate with the Taliban to get more time. So,
and again, I go back to my thing. You know, here we are, the strongest country in the nation, and we're negotiating with terrorists. And again, like I said, you know, I'm not a political figure. I'm not on the front lines. I'm not a journalist, et cetera, et cetera. I do not claim to be an expert on it. I just have my own, you know.
Well, you are a veteran, and you work with veterans in the mental health field. You are a licensed. Go ahead.
Yes, I am embroiled in the veteran community. I am a veteran. I have a lot of friends that are veterans. I myself, I use a lot of veterans resources as a veteran. And it has been instrumental in my life and in my journey. So every time I have an opportunity to talk to a veteran, good, bad, or indifferent, you know, about the different options that have been made available to me as a veteran, you know, I always take the chance, and have that conversation with them. You know, I may not have seen a lot of the things that so many other military members, saw in their careers, and I may not have had as long as a military career, but nonetheless, I had a military career. I know what the military life is like, and it's not something that you really ever get away from. You know, there are many aspects of your being and your life that still stay connected to the military. So again, through friends and family that are veterans, and just businesses that, that I do my best to help support in the community that are owned by veterans. So yes, I'm involved in the community, with veterans. I keep up on, veterans activities, and, I can't always, participate due to, schedule and stuff, with different things that they have going on and stuff. But absolutely, I'm always going to advocate for the military, for the active duty personnel. Cause I mean, you and I, we have our family members that, served in the military. As well as active duty, I'm going to always, I'm not going to be quiet about it. And I don't care, I don't care. I'm just not going to be quiet about it. This is not the time to be quiet. This is time for patriots. This is a time for Americans to speak up about everything, and, keep speaking up and speaking up loudly, and, not letting these people, active duty veterans, or just people in the community in general, because everybody is suffering from something. Don't be silent about it. Be that squeaky wheel, speak up.
So I agree. I totally agree. One of the last thing that I wanted to say is what McCarthy and the other one said. Rebootrecovery.com is some good resources. They are urging everyone to reach out and get help. Now the first half of this podcast was about the veterans, okay? But you have to realize that our whole nation is feeling this right now. Our whole nation of Americans is feeling less safe right now in every way. I mean, we're getting hit from every corner with the jab, scaring tactics with the jab. We have doctors and things stepping up to say, "Hey, this is no good. This is no good." That's good. So you have people standing up. They're urging more and more people to stand up and let your voice be heard. Let them know we can no longer sit back and just let somebody else do the dirty work. We can no longer, just let other people go off to war. We can no longer, just sit back and think everything's peachy. We also have the Patriots. Everybody knows what patriots are. They're groups of citizens, private citizens that join together as sort of like a martial force or some kind of a group that we also know that they're in training and they vow to protect us and things like that. So, but some of them are also urging each and every one of us to be on alert. They're asking us to get food and supplies into our homes. They're asking us to get pow-pows, if you know what those are, pow-pow, to protect ourselves. That the amount of people that are flooding into our community with no jobs and everything, that they're going to be going door to door trying to see what they can get or enact terror. Whoever's orchestrating this, it's coming to a head. And so I want to urge everyone to be on alert. Now, we're not conspiracy theorists here, but we are concerned citizens. We've been paying attention to the news.
We're Americans that love our country, and we want to stand up and do everything we can to protect our country and those that are in our country. And we do take strong offense to those that are doing everything they can to destroy the country.
Absolutely.
To interrupt you again really quick, and again, I know it sounds very, very cliche, and I honestly don't remember who even started it, but it honestly, it really speaks a lot of truth right now. And I briefly saw it posted somewhere recently. I don't even remember where. And it's like, remember that feeling we all had the day after 9/11? We should be having it again.
Yeah.
And we should have had it every single day since 9/11. And unfortunately, there's far too many of us that have forgotten, and like I said, we have a lot of crazy stuff going on in the world right now, and everybody's affected in one form or another. But let's not forget the very important people that are doing things to really continue on, whether it be helping out the veterans or those that have given their life or hurt in service to country in other ways, such as our firefighters, our law enforcement. Let's not forget what we briefly talked about last week, 22 a day. There's a lot of companies out there that support 22 a day. 22, one is far too many as far as the veterans that we lose to suicide. I wear this bracelet, in honor of that, and it has a nice inscription on it that says, Till Valhalla. And, we need to remember that.
What is that?
I honestly can't speak to what the definition is. I saw it and it drew me to it. And, it was more important that I got it because of, what it represented as far as, the 22 a day. And I wear it, every day on my wrist because it helps me remember, and it's just kind of my own private way of, giving back. And, these companies that do things, like, tunnel to towers and things of that nature, where they, help these families that have lost their loved ones and so on and so forth. I mean, we need to think about things like that. And again, going back to that cliched statement that I made a few moments ago, remembering how this nation or how the world, especially this nation, felt after 9/11. And yeah, you're absolutely right. We should be feeling that. And we have We should have been feeling that every single day since 9/11. So, I mean, I can't help but say at this moment in time, where's all of our patriots? Where's all of our Americans? Because now is the time for you to really just stand up, make yourself heard, make yourself known. And again, don't let anybody suffer in silence.
Yeah. So what concerns me is that being a grandparent, being a parent, family members, I don't really worry so much about myself as I worry about others. And I know that that's how veterans are thinking right now. What can I do? So I have a feeling that some of our family's going to be uprooted again and possibly looking to join. Have you heard of any other updates as to what could be coming down the pike?
In regards to what?
Just about, are they going to be reactivating some of the veterans? Is that how that works?
They can absolutely, I mean, with any, I mean, there's limits to everything. I'll be honest with you. I have absolutely no clue what they're going to do. I don't have insider information. But again, literally, it's completely unknown what could happen because of this administration. I'm just going to leave it at that. Well, because if I'm going to go off on a tangent and I'm going to get too heated and probably go into places I don't need to go.
Okay, so let me go back to McCarthy, and they had said that Biden and his people are too interested in this trillion dollar budget that they're trying to pass.
What, the infrastructure?
Yeah. They're too busy about twisting arms to get that passed when they don't have anything. They don't even care about what's going on in Afghanistan. To me, it looks like a big money grab. It looks like it's been a huge money grab for certain Democrats. And that
isn't it always about the money grab with them?
Well, and I feel like they're going to take the money and run and then throw Americans to the wolves.
Haven't they already started doing that?
Absolutely. That's what I'm trying to say. So I'm not a conspiracy theorist here, but we have been thrown to the wolves. We have been sold out as a country, and people have to wake up. And that is a cliche term, but people have to wake up and start figuring things out. You have to start really putting the pieces together and start taking things into their hands to protect themselves and to alert others. Because some people, like I said, they just don't want to believe anything until it's right at their front door. But we can't wait till it's at our front door.
No, okay? When it's at your front door, it's too late.
So what I'm going to ask is this. I'm going to ask that people stock up, okay? Get your water, your food, your candles, whatever you need, you feel like in case anything happens or if we lose the internet. And then
for those of you that feel that we are conspiracy theorists, just go ahead and sit there on your couch and do nothing. And let's see who comes out.
What I'm going to ask is everyone check on your neighbors. Go meet your neighbors. If you haven't met your neighbors, now's the time. Go meet your neighbors. See if they're even able to stock up. If not, let's help our neighbors get to the food banks, to the community resources. Let's give people rides to go get to the food banks so that we can help each other. Take some time to start helping each other, reaching out.
But that doesn't mean completely let your guard down, because unfortunately there are some sick individuals within the world, and those could literally be your neighbors. So obviously, even though you're urging people to, get to know your community, get to know your neighbors, get involved, help people out, always have a sense of, cautionary and a, heightened sense of suspicion when, if your gut starts telling you, or, something just doesn't seem right, don't discount your thoughts. Because, but don't assume that everybody is bad, because inherently people are good people. Yeah, we've got bad apples for one reason or another, but inherently people are good people. But again, you know, like you were saying, now is a time to definitely come together as a community, pull together and start helping people, because honestly, that's the only way we're going to get through this successfully, is coming together again as a nation. Um, Despite our differences, because we know that everybody's going to have differences. You know, there's going to be people out there, you know, that don't agree with the things that I say. And you know what? So what? You know, I'm not asking people to agree with what I say or believe exactly what I believe. You know, you're welcome, obviously, to your own opinions. That's another one of the things that's so great about this wonderful country that we live in, is that you have the right to your own opinion, and I can disagree with it, and I can have conversation with you about, you know, why things are different in my eyes. But at the end of the day, whether you believe me or you follow what I say or whatever, I don't really care.
Well, absolutely. We do have freedom of opinion here. And unfortunately, you know, a lot of people are getting too offended, and this is not the time for that. Let's stop, you know, let's stop that. But
Mhm.
I wanted to go back to like the community watches, reactivate the community watches in your neighborhood. You know, have men, obviously, or you know, if you're a woman, patrolling, or you know, looking
Men and
on
women.
watch or whatever. You know, we were able to stop here in Las Vegas. We were able to stop over there in Summerlin some of uh, the Black Lives Matters groups who had been threatening to go to Summerlin, and somebody had saw them at the gas station filling up their little bomb thingies with gas,
Molotov cocktails and
and
stuff like that. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, there was
and
a big article about that when that came down. I remember reading about that. They were very successful, you know, last
stopping
summer
that.
when the unfortunate rioting and unnecessary vandalism and stuff like that. So yeah, the community itself at large, you know, when they got wind of that, they banded together and they were able to squash that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm going to say, though. I believe that that's going to keep happening. Okay. Not only that is we're having refugees, and you know, nothing against refugees because everyone needs help. But when you're, you know, in a position in the country and you don't know the language, you don't have food, you don't have anything, you're going to be, you know, going out and doing whatever you can to feed your family as well.
Desperate times call for desperate measures.
So, you know, what do we do as a community? If we stick together, let's look into it. Let's try to help, you know, possibly bring boxes of foods and look into these. If you have some refugees around, I know that they're putting some refugees up in Scottsdale, Arizona, in some, you know, some of the apartments there. Well, how about, you know, some of the community there in Scottsdale go and find out where these refugees are, see what's going on, see if they need help before they come looking for it. You know what I mean? So what I'm saying is that we have to be more proactive. We have to get up off our couches, and we have to, you know, go and see what's happening in your neighborhood, go and see what's happening in your community. Let's not wait till it comes to our door.
Yeah, you know, and that's very, very true. But you also have to remember that in times such as these, when things like this happen, you know, it is natural for human nature to take over, and unfortunately for us to stereotype and put every person within that specific ethnicity or something into these stereotypes and assume that they're all bad, and that's not the case. So, you know, I think we do our own self a disservice, number one, because we stereotype everybody and we assume, you know, take a look back at Pearl Harbor, you know, look at what they did, you know, by putting, you know, thinking that all, you know, Japanese, you know, even American Japanese, people who had always, you know, been born and raised in America, you know, look at the atrocities and stuff that happened to them and how they ended up in different, you know, camps and stuff like that. So always, always, always exercise a certain level of precaution,
Yes.
but be aware of what's going on in your
Yes.
neighborhood, and don't stereotype and think that just because this person is of this ethnicity or nationality, whatever verbiage you use, that they're all bad. but then don't drop your guard enough to where you are completely blinded to somebody who could be a serious potential risk. It's all about being smart. And if you don't know how to be smart about it, then reach out to those, who do.
Yes, absolutely. And so it's a little bit of being hyper vigilant, hypervigilance. Okay. Now I wanted to speak about hypervigilance. I believe the whole world is on high alert right now. Um, Hypervigilance is constantly in. Okay, so when you have the fight and flight mode, you're constantly in that high adrenaline state to where you're, always like, can you explain what hypervigilance is and how that is affecting your body? I mean, it is
well, when you're when you have that hypervigilance going on, so basically what it is your sympathetic system is stimulated. And when your sympathetic system is stimulated, obviously it's preparing your body for, fight or flight, just as you said. So you have a lot of, different, neurotransmitters and stuff going on. And, in your system, you've got, norepinephrine and epinephrine, which basically, they increase your heart rate, they increase your breathing rate. They, help to shunt blood to the vital organs, et cetera, without giving you a pathophysiology lesson here. So, basically, it affects every organ in your body to a degree. And, you stop and you think about, stimulation. When your body's stimulated, you can only live in that constant stimulated state for so long. And at some point in time, your mind and your body needs to, somehow get the gas put on, put the brake put on to, and, the foot coming off of that gas, because you've got to have that homeostasis balance in your body. And that's what your body's always trying to do, is maintain homeostasis. But when a person finds themselves, they can't relax. Exactly. They can't be, they're always anxious. They can't calm their mind. They can't calm their body. A person's body can only tolerate that for so long. And after a period of time, if they don't find positive outlets to help, blow off some of that steam or relieve some of that pressure, because we're all pressure valves. At some point in time, it's going to blow. Yeah. But if it goes on for an extended period of time, unfortunately, you start developing bad coping skills. You start developing bad coping mechanisms. You start developing bad behaviors, unhealthy behaviors. And that's where people come into to issues that it becomes what, in the mental health field, we refer to it as maladaptive. And when it becomes maladaptive, it is basically, at that point in time, it's intruding, it's interfering with your daily life and how you function. And a lot of people find that they just can't function. And obviously the cascade can go on from there. You can have, constant anxiety. Your anxiety keeps you from sleeping. And when you don't get enough sleep, now you can start entering into depression. You can start, entering into bad habits of you're not eating or you're overeating. And again, I mean, we could dedicate a whole entire show to that. But again, everything is a domino effect. Everything affects everything. Your energy affects my energy affects another person's energy, so on and so forth, because we're all connected and, on different, playing fields of energy, so to speak. So that's when things become unhealthy. So, for people who can recognize that, wow, again, like you and I had a conversation before, that, a particular friend normally, gets up in the morning and goes jogging 5 miles every single day, because that is their release. That is how they manage. That is their part of their work-life balance. That is what they need in order to stay stimulated, motivated, healthy, whatever their goal and purpose is that they're utilizing the running for. So this week, you don't run 5 days, you only run 4. Okay, no big deal. So now 2-3 weeks, you're only running 4 days a week. And then all of a sudden now you notice that your friend, over the next couple of weeks is like, oh no, I'll go running tomorrow. And now they're at a point that they're only running twice a week. And now, time has gone by, and now, you're like, wow, you know what? They don't go running at all anymore. What's going on? This is something completely different. Now, don't get me wrong. This does not always mean that there's an underlying mental health issue, but there could potentially be. Maybe that person's experiencing some type of depression. Maybe that person has just had a change in work schedule and they just haven't been able to adequately find time to do what they once did. Maybe it's permanent, maybe it's temporary, maybe there's something going on that has caused them to not be able to keep that normal schedule. But when it starts entering into a problem is when we just go, oh, well, I'm sure nothing's wrong. I'm not going to say anything about it. And then the next thing you know, you wake up, a week later. And again, I don't mean to imply that this happens to everybody. This can happen, worst case scenario. But, 3 months down the road, you're like, man, you're reading the paper and all of a sudden you're reading an obituary. Or you get a text from a mutual friend and says, hey, did you hear about so-and-so? Yeah, they tried to commit suicide last night. Successful, unsuccessful. Again, I don't mean to imply that this is going to happen to everybody. I'm just saying these are some of the patterns, people who feel guilt every day, almost, all day long. People who feel worthless. They don't have any motivation. They just want to lay in bed. They are not motivated to get up. They're not motivated to shower. I mean, how do we normally feel? Think about when you've been sick. Say you had the flu or something for a week and you have been so sick that you didn't even want to get up off the couch. But now you're starting to feel a little bit better. And then you're like, you know what? I think I'm going to go take a shower. Think to yourself how you feel when you get out of the shower. You usually feel pretty good. You're like, wow, man, I probably should have showered 3 days ago. I probably would be feeling great. But those kind of things, there's another term that we use called anhedonia. Anhedonia refers to people who literally have no pleasure in things that were once pleasurable. So if you know somebody every single night, they come home, they have a glass of wine, they go into their art room and they paint. And now all of a sudden they're not doing that. Don't just let it go by. It's not that you're trying to be a nosy Nelly, but ask them, you don't ever talk about your painting anymore. Are you still painting? If not, why? Is everything okay? Can I do anything? You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
I mean, so it's the little things like that. I have a coworker. I haven't known her very long, but her and I have some mutual things, mainly that I have experienced, and I know she's venturing down a road, getting ready to experience them. So I know what she's about to experience. So she's had a really rough couple of weeks. So I made the little effort. I had to, stop at the store and get something to take to work today for lunch because I was running behind and I didn't have time to make my lunch. And so I stopped and I'm like, you know what? I saw, a particular item and I'm like, I'm just going to take it to her. And oh my gosh, the biggest smile on her face. And several times throughout the day, because we worked very closely together today, she picked it up and she's like, oh my God, I love it. I love it. Now, does this mean that it's going to cure all of the crisis mode stuff that she's had going on over the last couple of weeks? Absolutely not. She felt compelled to apologize. I'm really sorry. I hope I'm not bringing you down or bringing up bad memories or what. And I'm like, no. I said, talk to me, just talk to me. I said, I don't care what I'm doing. If you need to just talk, reach out to me and talk. And I use that example because I want to put that out there to everybody. It's the littlest thing that's going to make a difference. It's the littlest thing that is going to give somebody an outlet when you think that maybe you're not an outlet. It's 3 minutes of your time. Maybe it's an hour of your time. But if an hour of your time could potentially help somebody get through a situation, isn't that hour worth it? Yeah, it's an hour I can't ever get back, but so what?
Yeah.
And
last time we talked about the network of support that we each, not just the veterans, we all right now need a support network. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say, people watch a lot of TV. They're disconnected and they're distracted. And it's very easy to do in this day and age.
If you're doing it right, if you take it for face value of what it is and realize that this is not the reality for, most people. I mean, this stupid Hollywood Wives show just absolutely drives me nuts. Number one, okay, maybe it's reality for them, but not everybody lives at that level.
Yeah.
So, but if you take it for face value of what it is, a temporary escape, let your mind leave everything behind and escape into that world. Because every time I see it and I see how messed up they are in life, mentally, physically, despite all of the plastic surgery that they have, I literally look back and I'm like, I got my world is nothing compared to theirs. And I mean that as far as they got problems. I don't got problems like that. And I'm grateful for it because that's what it's meant to be. It is just simply an escape. Like you and I had that conversation last week. It's the same with social media. This is not a world to live in. Social media is not like living in the Jetsons, back when we were young and that cartoon and stuff. It is just a temporary escape. When it becomes unhealthy is when it occupies every bit of your life.
Yes.
And when you can't recognize that, that's a problem. I mean, again, and that's another show, we could go, exactly. We could have, so many different sequels, so many different things, of which hopefully maybe one day we get around to it, one of.
Oh, I would love to, I would love to bring up social media and bullying and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think before we get to that realm, as I was talking to you about the other day, there's some really good organizations and stuff out there that are doing some absolutely wonderful things for, people. So I think we'll concentrate on that stuff first, because I think we need to bring the good part of people in the world out before, we start getting all of that other stuff.
I wanted to say, well, the thing that I was talking about people and watching too much TV and things is this. So if you're going to go to mainstream media, you're going to get, there are people, and I want to say our older folks, they spend a lot of time in their TV and they're watching the mainstream media and they're getting petrified. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. It's compounding them with fear. So our elderly are being affected by the constant media barrage of bad news and things like that. So check on your old folks, get them away from their TV, take them out, take them to the park, take them wherever.
Well, as you know, you and I share the same mother, and we all know that mom lives with me practically every single day at some point in time during the day, when she comes downstairs, whether it be to the kitchen or this or that or whatever, when I'm home and she says something to me about this in the news or something to me about that or whatever, I'm like, shut the TV off, change the channel, go back to watching Turner Classic Movies or something like that.
Yeah.
Versus, watching the news, because literally when she's saying it, although she doesn't recognize it, it's really kind of in a state of panic.
Yeah. That's what I was trying to say.
Stop listening to the news.
Well, okay. So sure, for the elderly, when you're there, you can put it into perspective, but we have a lot of elderly that live
alone.
Live alone. They live or in senior citizen facilities or things, and they're all getting panicked right now. Check on your elderly. So how can I say this?
Well, you got to keep in mind too the restrictions with this whole COVID thing, flaring up. The restrictions that a lot of the, for those who are living in facilities, whether it be assisted living facilities or skilled nursing facilities, long-term care, et cetera, don't forget about the restrictions and stuff that they may be imposing about visitors and stuff like that. That doesn't mean that it's an excuse for you to not check on your people.
Yeah, exactly.
Even if it's a phone call or whatever, at this point, if you have a family member in a facility and they're not allowing visitors, if you're able just to get to a window outside the facility, look in that window and get that eye contact with your loved one, especially if they're still in a state that they can recognize you, etc. I implore you to do that. Now is not the time that, you should not just be visiting them. Even if it means standing outside of a window and saying, hey, I'm here. I'm sorry I can't give you a hug, but I'm hugging you, and, I love you, and I'm checking on you, and I'm here, even though I'm not here in the room with you. Don't forget, I love you. I'm here, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I'm going to say, if you have somebody in there, get them out. If you can bring them home, get them out as soon as possible. And then the next thing I want to say is, and as far as the news, the mainstream media, and the terror that is constantly coming out, and people, how the double-edged sword. You don't want to not stay informed, but you can't always just go to mainstream media for your information as well. So I'm going to really ask that people try to, for instance, reach out to the veterans and get their take. Reach out to people who are in the know. Reach out and get the information from direct sources, and then share that. Start having our little networks of information sharing, okay? And stop calling people conspiracy theorists. Stay informed, but I'm gonna really say that the mainstream media will just have you spinning. And then to wrap up this show, I know that things are going to intensify, and me personally feel overwhelmed. I know that a lot of people that I work with feel overwhelmed. Not only are we having the jab, threats of being enforced and having to worry about that. Now we've got to worry about what, our borders and our people in Afghanistan, and possibly war starting again. Now, be real. It's a very potential that we could be in a huge war here within days.
Don't you kind of already think it started?
I do think it started, but I feel like we're all on edge right now. We're all on edge. Okay, so let's just, like I said, be vigilant.
We've been on edge for the last 20 years.
Yes.
And now we're just closer to the ledge.
Yes, we're closer to the ledge, Candi, and that's what I'm trying to say. There's going to be people that are just saying, enough's enough. Enough's enough. Okay? So, and it's not just veterans. It's all of us. Enough is enough. Go ahead and wrap it up with how we're just going to help each other on the day in and day out right now, just to get through this. Like you've already mentioned some things, but any last thoughts on how we should just stay at this point?
Do some self-reflection. Take a look at your own self in the mirror and think about, what it is your thoughts are, your feelings, your values. What do you bring to the table? What prejudices do you bring to the table? What are you open-minded about? What are you not open-minded about? And then once you do that, why don't you reach out to somebody that you don't know and maybe get to know them, check on them. We could probably come up with a list of 1,000 different things, but it's always going to be the same, depending on what audience you are reaching out to. So for those of you that are suffering, don't suffer in silence. Speak up. For those of you that somebody speaks up to, don't let them down. Actually have the courage to step up. You don't have to know everything. You don't have to know anything, but you just have to be willing to help them find whatever it is that they need. Right. And you never know, you just might learn a little something, that you didn't know before. I guess really that's probably where I would leave it, because, like I said, early on in the, in the podcast here, um, it takes a village. It literally takes a village.
Yes.
Right now, too many of those villagers are trying to push all the other villagers to the outside, and we're not going to accomplish anything that way. We all need to band together. And honestly, in my own, I mean, I have to say it because, if I didn't say what's on my mind, I wouldn't be me. And I truly have to say, if you were in this country, whether you were born in this country or you came to this country, whatever, if you're in this country and you hate this country, do us all a favor and just leave, because I think we're getting to the point where we're just sick of it. If you want to go somewhere else, absolutely go. Hey, call me. I'll be happy to come help you pack.
Yeah. Yeah.
Literally. I mean, if you don't love this country, why are you here? I mean, truthfully, I wouldn't move to France, and if I hated the country, stay there.
Right.
That's just an example. I mean, I've never been, so I can't even begin to speak about it. But literally, if you don't love this country and you don't love what we stand for, and you don't, the only thing you love is the benefits that we offer, you're not an American. Leave.
Well, I think we've all been handed a whole lot. We all have a lot on our plates now to think about. Hopefully, like I said, we'll continue to reach out and support each other, help each other, be aware. And Candi, I just want to say thanks again for this information. It's always a pleasure talking to you. You're my sister. You and I always have a ton of things to talk about, and we do share the same views on a lot of things. So
we never talked like this when we were growing up.
Growing up is different.
I know.
Once you get schooled, once you go through life, you realize the same things and everything like that. So it's going to wrap it up for tonight. Now, Candi, you said that you had some guests you want to bring on for one of our next shows.
Yes, I have reached out to some people. I don't know when I'm going to be able to get that set up. I'm hoping to be hearing back from them. One of them, I've known her for several years. 10 years, a little more than 10 years now. She's a former student of mine. Absolutely wonderful human being. Her and another person that she is well known to are doing some absolutely phenomenal things, helping people out in time of need. So I really want to have them on as a guest. It's just a matter of making arrangements and coordinating the time, because they are actually on the East Coast. So we might have to pick a day to where, we're able to fit that whole time frame in. And another thing that I've been thinking about, that I want to reach out to him and see if he is game for being a guest of ours, is somebody that I know here in the local community, who he's a doctor of naturopathy. And he's a phenomenal individual, very knowledgeable, actually is a celebrity in his own right here locally, has his own radio show and everything. So I'm hoping that maybe we could probably pull him in and do a couple of things. And then, like I said last week, I'm trying to work a thing where, we could eventually maybe go live on site somewhere. One particular business that I'm thinking of, I just have to reach out to it. And start spotlighting, different things, especially veteran-owned businesses.
Yes, I totally agree with you.
So, yeah. So I've got a couple of things that I'm working with. Obviously, you know me, 7 days a week, I'm always going. I don't know sometimes if I'm coming or going. I don't know if I'm accomplishing things, but whatever. I hope I am. And, like I said, I mean, if we can touch one person, we can save a life, if we can benefit somebody's life in some, form or fashion, then I think everything's worth it, because we're all on a journey. Everybody's journey is different. Some people have some experiences that are similar to mine, et cetera, et cetera. But the only way that we're going to reach people is by opening our mouths, being the squeaky wheel, and getting the information out there, and not being afraid of being silenced. Because I think anybody who knows me would agree with my statement that I'm not one to be silenced. So good luck with that.
Yeah, me neither. Me neither. It's just so important that we share our story, and we
It's
have
not even
people
our
listen.
story, it's other people's story. It's getting other people to share their stories,
Yes,
not just our stories. I mean, yeah, I'm sure we could probably talk about us all day long, but I really want to, spotlight some of the other people. And
absolutely. That's what I mean. Sharing
yeah,
our
yeah,
story. Everybody needs to be heard.
yeah,
We all need to listen and things like that. And it's just so wonderful that now's a good time. Okay.
yep.
Now's a good time. Tell yourself, now's a good time. Whatever it is that you feel like you need to do, now's a good time.
Today's the day.
Right?
Yeah.
Perfectly said. Perfectly said. All right. So that's going to wrap up the show tonight. Let's go and have some food and have some drinks, and we'll get with you next week. Everyone, stay tuned for next week, and thanks for joining us. Candi, have a great night. All right.
Thanks. You too.
All
Love
right.
you all.
Love you guys. Bye.
Bye.